Hey guys, Jason here again on another video. Today I'm going to give a documentary review of the ESPN 30 for 30 movie Big Shot, which basically focuses on the New York Islanders and their story of fraud by their former owner John Spano. Alright, well let's start from the beginning. This documentary, directed by Kevin Connolly, former actor and director. Now he was on the HBO series Entourage for a while. He directed this movie. It starts off in the 80s with the team's inception and their dominance in the 80s, talking about their four consecutive championships, details then their with all their Hall of Fame players, then it details their kind of lack of success in the 90s, up until 1996, where longtime owner John Pickett wanted to sell the team, just wanted to get out. The building was falling apart. The team was no good. So within a year of that time period, a couple different owners, a trio of owners who changed the logo and everything about the team, and people were upset about this. There was a huge uproar about this, and finally one owner came about. It was John Spano. He is a Dallas businessman, basically came out of nowhere. Nobody knew about him up to that point, especially in the sports circles. He owned a tiny firm, I believe it was a relatively tiny firm, possibly worth about $100,000 or so in Dallas. So I mean, he was kind of connected to the inner circles via the clients that he worked with. He spent time in Jerry Jones's box in the Cowboys games. I think this documentary stated. So very, very interesting, and he was very high profile when that comes. So he was viewed as a savior, though, by the people of Long Island, the people of the Islanders fans, especially, obviously, because the stadium was falling apart. The team just relatively sucked, and they were just going through hard times. Head coach Mike Milbury, who is now a color analyst or an analyst on NBC, was the head coach and the GM during these tough times, and just things were bad. He even quoted in the movie that they sucked, which, I mean, if you look at the record, that tells you that. Anyway, basically, then the movie, this is within a year's time. John Spano, it goes into detail about his life and about whatnot, and then it details the sale of the team. And with that year, the team, I believe, was being sold for about $165 million. So, I mean, for a hockey team, I mean, that's up there for a sports franchise, obviously. So, and he had nothing. So he had to go to these banks and go to, and whatnot, try to get a private investor for a new stadium to start off with. He ended up getting ownership of the team, and was being praised his first public appearance with the stadium and whatnot. And people were chanting and whatnot. It was just a huge vibe, a whole bunch of excitement. Unfortunately, it never came to fruition, as he, on the signing day, he was so far behind on his payment. He needed a down payment. People were starting to become very, very skeptical of him, and very doubting of him, I guess you could say, especially on the other side, the other owners with Pritchard, and whatnot there. Sorry, Pickett. Sorry, that's the name. Sorry. But people were starting on the other side were starting to become very, doubting. So there was a down payment, $5 million down payment. He paid that, and ended up paying the $80 million to get the team from a bank. Kind of weaseled his way through that, and broke it down in increments where last 65,000 or whatever it was, or 65 million or whatever it was, had to be paid in increments of 17 million. Well, signing day comes, and he kept kind of putting it off and making up excuses, crazy excuses about a bombing that happening overseas. His money was overseas, he claimed, and in England and in the Bahamas and those islands down there, the Caribbean islands, and just made all these excuses and ended up going to signing day and just the official signing day for the NHL. When you sign over a team, there's a whole bunch of lawyers and it's the NHL office and in New York and Toronto and whatnot now, and end up faxing over instead of 17 million, 17,000, and just making up these crazy excuses. In the interview, he does seem very, very cocky. The interview with director Kevin Connolly, as I had said, he does seem very cocky, very kind of, look what I did. And this is one thing I did not like about this documentary, is the way he was in there so much. I would say his story, but the way they let him be. He was very cocky in the documentary, very, very full of himself, it seemed like. And obviously he pulled off a stunt here. But it just amazes me in general. Yeah, it ended up where he ended up making a fax and kind of things unraveled. The local newspaper, Newsday, I believe it was, kind of unraveled the story and made all these, series of articles detailing this. Very, very interesting. But in general, it amazes me that this could happen. I mean, he seemed like an everyday person, came out of nowhere, and he was able to get really, really close to buying this franchise. Even had a tie-in with Roger Staubach of the Dallas Cowboys during his heyday and whatnot. So he was this close to buying the team. I mean, it's crazy to think about how he could come up with these lies and just spur of the moment stuff, and just made people, when he got the call from Commissioner Bettman, just was in shock. And I just don't I don't understand how this could happen. I mean, thankfully it was stopped, because if for some reason if this did happen, that would have been pretty crazy. Obviously. Part of me then thinks this is obviously the banks. The banks at this point in the '90s really had it was a boom for the bank. The '90s were pretty good financially for this country. So banks didn't bother to do the background checks, and it's just that's the bank's problem. And I think obviously Gary Bettman, who kind of pushed Sparrow to do this in the first place, and Sparrow rather, and because he grew up in Long Island, did John Sparrow there, but it's very, very interesting, this documentary. I highly recommend it if you have a chance to catch it on the TV. If you want to get a DVD for it, it's interesting just to see how this thing unrolls. I know I kind of gave a summary of the whole documentary, but I just wanted to detail as much as I could without kind of giving away my summary. And it ends with actually Sparrow being sentenced to 5 years in prison for a whole bunch of fraud here. I will detail this for you guys here. He was convicted on wire fraud, forgery, bank fraud, and was sentenced to 71 months in prison, which I think ends up to around 5 years. Yeah, it's crazy. He's got a divorce. As far as this happening in today's professional sports, it could obviously never happen. I mean, there's background checks now. We've advanced so far from even the '90s, where that was a possibility. And there's a lot of safety nets for these professional teams. Obviously, there's down payments now. There's huge contracts, a lot of paperwork. You got to have the money up front, essentially. So very, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, if this somehow did happen, this would be a record proportion. We have never seen this again. And I think, though, in the long run, this was mentioned in the documentary. In the long run, this has actually saved the Islanders franchise. If you think about them current day, obviously they're not very good. They made the playoffs last year. I think they were ousted by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I believe it was the first round, if I'm not mistaken. They do have some young talent. They've got center John Tavares, I believe, who played for the I believe it was the Canadian team this year in the Sochi Olympics. Is unfortunately out for the year after tearing his ACL, as I mentioned in a previous video I did this afternoon. The kind of recap of the Olympic hockey. But if you think about it, this John Spano has saved the Islanders franchise in a way because of the TV contract that he negotiated for the team. During this whole process, the team was kind of trying to renegotiate. There was going to be a settlement where he was going to be able to own the team through the TV contract, and now they have a TV contract, and they kind of have a little bit more life. Otherwise, I think this team would have ended up in Canada somewhere or another city. Obviously, I'm not saying it's not a bash about the fans. The fans seem very, very loyal, but the attendance and just everything, this team could end up somewhere. I still think to this day, if they continue the way they are right now in their present state of kind of just being on the border. Yeah, so this I think that might happen maybe one day. But to get back to the documentary, very, very interesting. I highly recommend it. As far as on a star scale, if I was to give it stars, I would give it 3.5, 4. It was very well done, very good storytelling. I definitely check it out if you're a fan of sports documentaries or whatnot. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching this documentary review. This is again the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary Big Shot, produced and directed by Kevin Connolly, former actor on Entourage and filmmaker. Definitely check it out if you can. Yeah, thank you guys for watching this documentary review again. Please like this video if you did enjoy it. I know it's pretty long here. If you like any of my other videos, please subscribe. I try to put album review corners, put sports buzz up, put concert videos when the time comes, put a whole bunch of how-to videos if I get any requests or whatnot. If you're also a new or upcoming band and you want me to maybe review an album or you just want me to see your material, feel free to follow me on Twitter at JasonQuinn1992 if you're a sports fan and the like. Anybody really, I will follow back. Try to build my following on there as well. Okay, thank you guys for watching this episode of Sports Buzz, kind of a documentary review this time. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.